sometimes in the Western world, governments or child services would step in. So did you have any issues like this?
The government provides in England a tremendous amount of services that I can say are quite exceptional. And a woman was offered to us once Francesca was born. I think she was called Health Service. And if we wish...
Was she a very obese lady? Sometimes you have that, like, it was the Belgian minister, Minister of Health, and she was super fat.
No, there was room for improvement, but no, she was quite proportioned well, and she was open to how we fed Francesca. Of course, the first year, Francesca was 100% breastfed and showed no interest in food. One time when she was 9 months old, she wanted to see a banana I was eating. Or Rosie was eating, and we gave it to her, and she held it and then gave it back. Just wanted to know what it was. When she was a little over a year, she expressed interest in another banana and actually put it in her mouth and took a bite and then gave it back. But this health advisor service, I think she came weekly at first, and we were happy for her insights. Neither Rosie or I have ever had children, and we could either adopt what was suggested or not. So we spoke about all the options. Yes, it seemed like a viable source of information. Francesca was never vaccinated in any way, ever, never swabbed or anything else. But she did meet doctors on occasion. We wanted her to have this experience of meeting doctors in case she ever needed a doctor. And it turns out when she was 7, she broke her arm and had to go to the hospital to get the bones reset. She broke both bones, and it was a big deal.
Which is usually where we're happy. There's actually that modern medicine.
What a wonderful world. Yes, I wasn't even home at the time. And so Rosie had to take care of it. And maybe in the middle of the jungle, I have the skills. I know how bones are reset, something I learned going through my medical training. But I don't, would I have reset my daughter's bones? Ooh, I'm really glad there was someone to do that, right, rather than me. And there was pain medication that she could receive first because it hurts quite a bit. And yeah, I'm not against the medical world. I'm telling you what I'm in favor of, but I'm very glad that emergency services exist. If my arm gets chopped off at the shoulder, I'm glad someone can sew it back on and I can regain use of my hand. So the health service lady came and she watched Francesca grow up and measured her occasionally and weighed her occasionally and said, oh yes, she's at this point on the chart. And Francesca stayed on the same growth line throughout her childhood. When Francesca was somewhere around 4, the health services lady says, I'm about to sign off. And she said, I can't sign off on your diet only because I know nothing about it other than what you've told me. I can see Francesca is ahead of her peers. I can see she's happy and healthy. I can see she's never been sick. She's socially advanced. She's coordinated. She's incredibly well-read. She loves reading. And I still can't sign off on it.
What do you mean by sign off?
Say everything is fine. She couldn't take responsibility for saying everything is fine because she knows nothing about this diet. Yeah. And my thought was, well, she knows nothing about the other diets either. How could she sign off on them? But she knew our diet was different. And so she said, would you be willing to see a nutritionist? And I said, yes, I'm more than happy to see a nutritionist. I've got nothing to hide. So I went to see a nutritionist. And the nutritionist had only one or two questions. Where does Francesca get her iron? And I said, oh, well, she gets her iron from vegetables primarily. Yeah, she eats lots of vegetables, and she gets iron primarily from there. But the iron from plants is made more bioavailable when it's consumed with foods that contain vitamin C. So when she eats fruits and vegetables, the iron becomes more bioavailable. And so her diet of fruits and vegetables makes the iron plentifully available. And she said, oh, like this was news. And I think she asked me another question and said, okay, you have answers. That's fine. And I thought we were done. Turns out she also could not sign off, was not willing to take responsibility, and sent us to now see the director of nutrition for our entire county.
And is it a thing that there needs to be some kind of authority that signs off on how children are raised in the UK?
No, it's not necessary.
It just happened.
It happened only because we said, yes, we wanted to allow this health visitor into our lives to look and make sure all was well. Had we said, no, we don't want a health visitor, that would have been the end of it. Now we have an appointment with the director of nutrition for all of the county. And I'm starting to get aware that this is going somewhere. Like, we have to prove something. So rather than just walk in with the information in my head, I prepared a little bit to go see this man and said, I have an idea what he's going to ask. He's going to ask nutrition questions. And so let me create a little something on paper to show what Francesca eats and what nutrients. Fortunately, I took every nutrition course available all the way through my medical training, which was every semester of chiropractic college. And I know a bit about nutrition. And we go see this man who was kind of heavyset. And his name was Mr. Candy. I kid you not.
The jokes of the universe.
And Francesca and Rosie sat off to the side. There were some things for children to play with, so they sat over there and played a little bit. And Mr. Candy asked Francesca a few questions, like, what do you like to do? And she answered with it. She never even looked at him or anything. She was busy playing with some game on the floor. And she said, oh, I love to ride my horses, and I love reading. Reading is my favorite thing. I read a full book every single day, a new book every single day. She said, I love ballet, and I love every kind of animal, and I love learning, and all these things that she loves, right? And he said, oh, that's very nice. And he asked her a couple more questions. Who are the authors that she reads? And she named all the authors that she read. And he's, oh, that's pretty cool, like a 4-year-old. And she goes, well, what are your favorite subjects? And she said, well, I love learning about history. I really like learning about disasters and how did they happen and the mysteries of what went on. And she said, and I like learning about different societies and social studies and all these different things that she really loved. And
how old is she at the time?
She's 4, right?
I know you said it already, but
yeah,
I was like, I want to make sure.
She's almost 5.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, he's like, he can't find any, again, no downside to what's going on. Like, this girl's sharp from every single angle. She's doing one thing and talking to him. Like, she's multitasking really well and remembering every question and answering clearly. Finally, he asks me, he turns to me, he says, well, we still do have some questions about Francesca's nutrition. I hear your diet is just a little different. So I reach into my briefcase and I pull out my little prepared thing on nutrition. And it's 52 pages, full-size pages, both sides. It's charts, it's graphs, it's pie charts, it's every kind of graph for every nutrient. Francesca eats da-da-da-da-da. This is her sources of vitamin B1, vitamin B2, vitamin B3, vitamin A, B, C, D, E, magnesium, class. It didn't matter what. Went through the whole thing. I basically created a book on nutrition on Francesca. And I pulled it out and he was looking at his whatever and wasn't paying attention to me. And I reach over and pull it out and I put it on his desk and he hadn't even looked yet to see what I'd done. And then finally he looks and he opens this thing and he sees that it's actually a classic textbook on nutrition, but on one person. And he opens it and he opens it. And he goes to another page and opens it. And like his face just went slack. And then he closed it and hands it back to me and said, I can see you've been very thorough in your preparation and that Francesca's nutritional needs are well taken care of. I said, yes, I think so. Thank you very much. And he said, if you ever need any help or guidance, feel free to call me. And that was the end of it. But we walked out of there knowing full well that the state was ready to take Francesca from us. They were ready to intervene with this raw vegan child. That can't be right. And fortunately, I was prepared and I showed them that it was actually more than right. It was better than when Francesca was 9 months old. I went to a course being offered locally where nutrition for children was discussed by a nutritionist who goes and makes outreach to new moms and dads. And somebody in the room asked what to feed their baby who's 6 months old, 9 months old, 12 months old. How do I know when are they ready for different things? And the lady said, by the time a baby is 9 months old, you can go to McDonald's, buy a Happy Meal, take the entire Happy Meal and pour it into your blender, blend it, and give it to your child and know that they're getting everything they need.
Oh, sorry, I mean, it's not that funny when you think about it.
Can you imagine blending a soda with a hamburger and bread and cheese and potatoes and all the chemicals and salt that goes into it, and calling
but not the
that
bugs, so.
calling that food for a 9-month-old and feeling that, oh, the nutritionist said that's just fine, so it must be really good nutrition. Like McDonald's is looking out for my nutrition. So I knew we had looked over the edge of what could happen, and by being prepared, they completely backed down. They said, "Oh, this is not." A,
it's good to hear.
But B, they're willing to back down. And ever since then, I've always offered that service to anybody who's raising children. Like if they're having trouble with authorities, it's a service I can provide.
Yeah, do you feel that's super solid? Have you done it with others, or do you feel you also got lucky that the guy was?
No, I've done it with many others. Done it with many others.
So that works.
It works like a charm.
Nice. And in different countries?
Yes, in different countries. And demonstrating preparedness and demonstrating thorough preparation. I mean, they back right down. they just back right down. There are, for sure, people who take poor care of their children, even when giving them raw, and try to raise a child on coconut water and oranges or something. There are poor parents in the raw food movement, I'm sure. It shocks me, though, that obese children aren't put under the same scrutiny. Like, why aren't those parents being challenged even?